We are, in the scheme of things, what you might call the new kids on the block at 89 years old. In other words, what can be laid at the foot or what can be laid on other religions can't be laid on us. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that when we have events or when we attend ceremonies, we don't walk on red carpets. That's right. That's right. Because we have no history of shedding the blood of other human beings. That's right. You will have people today, they will try to point a finger at the Nation of Islam as this violent group. Yet they can't show no history of violence within the Nation of Islam or that the Nation of Islam has perpetrated against others.
That's right.
So again, we live in a world, beloved, that's steeped in violence. You know, Christianity, in terms of its history, is an extremely violent religion. Its history is written in blood. Just go back to, the historical Jesus of 2,000 years ago. What is it about him that's celebrated? It's his death. And he didn't have an accidental death. He wasn't running one day and fell over a cliff. They say he was crucified. And in the process of crucifixion, they say the man was tortured. Those who are reputed to have been his followers, they're said to have been fed to lions in the Roman Colosseums. This is violence, beloved. This is tyranny on another level. That's the foundation of the religion. Have you heard anything about the Inquisitions? Have you heard about the Spanish Inquisitions? That's the foundation of Christianity. Have you heard about the Crusades? This is violent attacks or violent repression, violent suppression of other people in order to establish that which you call today Christianity. This is the invasion of the Holy Lands and the invasion of other people's nations in order for you to establish that which you call Christianity. So we're not going to take any lectures from some of the most violent people on the planet trying to point a finger at us now as being this violent group when there is no documented history of violence being perpetrated by the Nation of Islam against any other. You can't show it. It always makes me laugh because I'm old enough to remember some of the early comedy shows in this country from the 60s and the 70s, and there was a show called Love Thy Neighbor. That's right. And even as a young boy growing up, watching Love Thy Neighbor and listening to this racist character, this white man, calling the character played by the actor who's now in EastEnders. What's our brother's name? His name slips me. Rudolph Walker.
That's right.
He's a friend of mine. And he would be referring to Rudolph Walker as Sambo and Nignog and Wog and all manner of. He had a multiplicity of names for the black man. But what always struck me was how the black man, his vocabulary when it came to a comeback was very limited. Honky. I mean, it was pathetic. We hardly had any comeback. You know, it was very limited what he could kind of come back at the white man with. Honky and, you know, that was it. I can't even think of another one. Whitey. You know, it was pathetic. And you know, today, beloved family, we have black people who will call white people names, and to some, oh, that's so racist. See, there is no racism in calling a name. That's just a pathetic person who is desperate to try and hit back in some way, calling a name. I think there's a popular saying that some parents used to teach their children that sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And so the most you can accuse black people of is some name calling. But within racism, there is a power component. And you can't accuse black people of being racist because we have never been the power brokers who had any power to impose our racism on anybody else to the degree where we could confine somebody to the corner of some society.
Teach, bro. Teach.
Within racism, there's a power component which enables the racist to be able to limit the actions or the life chances of another.
Teach.
We as black people have never had that ability, and we have never exercised that ability against anybody.
Teach.
So this charge of racism is spurious and a damnable lie.
Teach.
And any black person who is foolish enough to take it on and start walking around feeling guilty that, oh, to love your black self somehow equates to hating somebody else. That's foolishness, beloved.
Yes, sir.
But guess what? That's exactly what most of us do today. Most black people today can't say anything about black pride or black progression or black self-help or black growth and development without immediately apologizing and saying, but I mean white people as well. We can't say nothing about our own self without immediately having to say, and that doesn't mean I'm against anybody else. We have to immediately apologize just for the audacity of talking about our own self-interest. And we're the only people on the planet, the only people in this country who are required to make such an apology. It's very, very sad. The vast majority of us haven't got a clue about this message, don't know nothing about this message, have never heard about this message, and even worse than that, sadder than that, is that some of us who have heard or have seen and know that there is such a message, we will run 100 miles an hour in the opposite direction away from this message. Imagine that. Can you imagine a message to the white man? That would be required reading. Because white people are not shy when it comes to self-interest. Can you imagine a message to the Chinese man? Chinese people will be eating that up because, see, these people have self-interest. They understand that they got to take care of themselves first. But we're the only people who have been so conditioned that we have to think about everybody else's welfare first before we will consider our own.